and welcome to Reliving My Youth. My name is Noel Fogelman. My guest this week is Russell Kilbey. Russell is the lead singer of the Australian indie rock group The Crystal Set, who are back after 30 years with a reunion tour in Australia. I've seen the clips on Facebook. They sound great. Even Russell's son Logan comes up and performs with them. And if the last name Kilbey sounds familiar, it's because Russell is the younger brother of the Church's Steve Kilbey. We discuss Steve as well as their influences on each other. Crystal Set released 2 studio albums, and that was it. Of course, record company issues derailed the band. It's nothing new. We discussed that. We also discussed what Russell did following the breakup of Crystal Set, and if any new music from the band is forthcoming. I discovered them by chance at my college radio station. Otherwise, I would never have heard the band. So thankful I did. Really enjoyed my conversation with Russell, and I hope you do as well. So Russell, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Noel.
Yeah, so the Crystal Set reunited after, I believe, over 30 years. You're in the midst of a tour, a mini tour going on. How did that come about?
Well, it's been 33 years. We were supposed to do the Ups and Downs, who were another Australian band. I don't know whether you've heard of them. We used to be neighbours back in the 80s across the street, and we became friends with them. And they kept saying, "Oh, you should come and do a tour with us." And so it was supposed to happen in 2020,
Right.
but obviously COVID came along and made everything tricky. So and then it just so happened that the guitar player Phil, who had quite a high-powered government job, and he left work, so he had a lot more time. Um, his job was actually working for the emergency services for the agricultural department for
Okay.
Queensland. So it was kind of interesting because this huge cyclone came along like 3 weeks ago in Queensland, and he was just going, if I was still working, there's no way I'd be doing this tour because I'd
Right.
be all hands on deck, for this cyclone, which is what you call a hurricane in America.
Yeah.
Same thing, great big storm. Mm.
Yeah. Was it easy to get I guess we would say the band back together?
Well, it's just really me and Phil are the original players in the
Right.
band. And the keyboard player slash guitar player is Craig Hooper, and he
Okay.
was in an amazing seminal Australian sort of what would you call them, like electronic band called the Reels.
Yes.
Have you heard of them?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, not many people have. They put out like a couple of they were quite popular at the
Mm,
time in Australia. They had a couple of
right.
like definite hits. They never got overseas because it was a lot harder in those days for a band to get overseas, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Um, anyway, he produced our Cluster EP back in '88. And so it's great him playing. And what you probably don't know is that him and Phil are old school buddies. So they went to
Okay.
school in Dubbo, and so it's like you can see them looking across, going, "We're on stage together." It's
Right.
amazing. Yeah. So he's an amazing musician. Originally, after he left the Reels, he joined a band called the Malanes,
Okay.
who were Crowded House before Crowded House. So
Right.
Tim Finn, you know who Crowded House are,
Oh, of
obviously.
course. Yeah.
Yeah,
And his
yeah.
brother
Well,
Neil. Yeah.
Neil Finn had a band before that called the Malanes,
Okay.
which Craig was in. And for some reason, I'm not really sure, he threw it in and then he started it up again, but he didn't ask Craig. But
Oh,
so, you know, anyway, yeah, so it's been amazing. We've got the bass player who was in a band called Died Pretty. Have you heard of them?
I have not.
Ah, that's good. That's good. Here's one band. Well, you
Yeah.
should probably. They were very much. We toured with them quite a bit,
Okay.
and they were hard to describe, really. Sort of a little bit sort of Americana sort of thing, I guess you might, whatever that sound is. But
Right.
they just had this sort of, vast sort of guitar with a little bit of organ and a very strange but charismatic singer who was a bit like a kind of twisted Iggy Pop kind of
Okay.
guy. Yeah, yeah, he was called Ron Pino. Unfortunately, he died like last year, so you won't ever get to see them again.
Right.
But the bass player from that band, who we've known a long time, jumped at the chance, and he's been the band manager. Sorry, not the band manager, the band Meister, sort of, trying to like he
Like
was
music director type.
music director, yeah, because we were playing wrong chords, you know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah.
He was going, they're not the right chords, and I was going, and he'd go, this is the right chords, and they're much better chords, and we go, oh yeah, of course they are, but just in the 33 years we'd forgotten how to play the songs.
Yeah. How
Well, so
how
he's
often? Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. Like, how
that's okay.
often did you play like any of these songs in that span of the 33 years before the concert?
Never. Yeah. Well, look, I'm on the autistic spectrum, so I
Okay.
just sort of went, that was then, and just sort of dropped it, I guess. And oh well, I guess there was a couple of times I played for charity. I played a couple of the songs for charity,
Right.
but that was about it. In the 33 years, I hardly played them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had a lot of my practice was just getting my fingers tough enough to survive an hour show.
Yeah.
So I have to keep playing every day for an hour just to get the old fingers tough enough to strum along. Yeah.
Yeah. After the first concert, did it feel like you never left the stage? Or was it like a brutal, rough
No, that
concert?
was
Yeah.
great. It
Yeah.
was yeah, it was well, it was kind of easy because we would play the first show we played was in Canberra, which we deliberately did for a warm-up show. Canberra's
Okay.
like Washington, Canberra, yeah, Australia's Washington.
Okay.
So there was only like about 100, 90, 100 people there. And it was it was a little bit daunting for like maybe the first song or two, and then once people started cheering,
Yeah.
the drummer we've got, Rudy Weber, is a fantastic drummer, and he's also sings. Um, and so we've pretty much got a really like probably a better band than it ever was back in the 80s,
Mm.
in some respects. So it's easy to relax and just play the
Right.
songs.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't realize what good songs they are. You know what I mean? I sort of forgotten that
Mm.
what good songs, and one of the interesting things is that the audience knows the words really, really well.
Right.
So I have to be really careful to mess up
Yeah.
the lines. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Were you surprised? I mean, the music has lived on for all these decades, but were you surprised how the audience response was and how people turned out for these shows and stuff like that?
Yeah, oh, for sure, for sure. We didn't know. We didn't know whether it was going to go down well or not. So it's been surprising and wonderful, and I just want to honor the songs
Yeah.
and honor the audience that's kept them alive. Like interestingly, we didn't put them on Spotify until about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, I know. I was happy to
Yeah, and
discover
that
them
was
again. Yeah.
It was really because there was a guy in the Brian Jonestown massacre called
Okay.
Ricky. Yeah. And whenever I saw him, he'd go, "Ah, man, you got to put those songs up. They're great songs. They're the only, you're one of the few bands that we don't have arguments in the bus over. Like we
Right.
love your songs. And so, and yeah, eventually I just thought, well, might as well just put them up, and um, it wasn't it was good to do, and there's still a few more that I've have to track down and put up,
Oh,
that
that's
that,
great.
that they're on vinyl but aren't on Spotify yet. So
Right.
yeah, I really want to get those up.
Yeah.
We might actually have to just rip them off the vinyl, which is and put them up. Yeah.
Right. With these shows, has this kind of like triggered something for you about, maybe making, more music with the band?
Yeah. Well, one of the interesting sort of what would you call it? A kind of a trap that a sort of mind trap that I'd made for myself was I was very upset that we'd lost an album's worth of songs. So we had a whole album's worth of songs that we never recorded when the
Okay.
band broke up, and there was demo tapes of those, but I didn't have any. And Phil reckoned he saw one, and then he couldn't find it again. You know what I mean? And but interestingly, we found those demo tapes, and we have 7 songs that we wrote just before the band broke up that we could be a good basis for an album if we wanted to redo, if we wanted to go back and record an album. And I guess we're just playing the shows. We've got 2 more shows in Sydney, and then we'll sort of talk about what we want to do moving forward. But I guess if we come back and play again, we'd like to have some new stuff
Right. Yeah, no,
to play. I
yeah.
guess, yeah. I mean, but we've got so many songs. It's hard to fit them all in. You know what I mean? People want to hear the old songs, so we definitely wouldn't. I went and saw a band called
Oh
and
yeah.
they're great. Yeah, they were great back in the day. But at the Opera House they played their whole new album. The first set was their new album that had only been out 3 weeks, and no one knew the songs, and
Yeah.
it was kind of
Right.
it, yeah. We won't be doing that. We'll put new songs in through amongst the old songs. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I just recently saw, I guess it was last year already, Tears for Fears, and they released a new album, and they do a good job mixing in like their new music because it's been forever since they put a new album out, and then
yeah,
everyone wants to hear their hits as well. So they do a good job blending the two.
yes,
'Cause you know your audience.
yeah.
Uh,
You got to do that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So you're probably wondering how someone from America discovered the
I am
crystal
actually,
set. Yeah.
Noel, especially someone you've got no idea how excited my son was when he realized that you'd done a podcast with the guy from Parks and Recreation. You know,
Oh yeah.
he yeah, because we watched that series we love that series, and so he was very excited when I went, look at this they're going to put me on this podcast with the guy who did this podcast with the Parks and Rec guy. So,
Oh
and
yeah.
plus other great people that you've interviewed. But yeah,
I've been doing this now for almost 8 years, and I'm still shocked that anybody agrees to come on. So it's been a labor of love for me, and like having bands that people may not know here, but I know. Like Crystal Set is
yeah,
fantastic for me. So went to college up in Buffalo, New York, and in the mid 90s, and I worked at the radio station doing like the sports updates. So every time I'd go in about a half hour before my segment just to like write the scripts and stuff like that, and I kind of poke around, the music there, and somehow Umbrella was there, and I'd never heard of the band before, and I was really intrigued, so I kind of stole the CD and brought it back to my dorm room and burned a copy onto cassette and listened to it a lot. It was really good, fantastic songs, but I couldn't find any other of your music anywhere in the States, and I just had that cassette for a while, lost it, whatever, up until last year I finally discovered your music back on Spotify. So it was a good like maybe 25 years after
wow,
graduating to hear the music. So I was very excited to hear it again. So it was good because there's a lot of great music coming from down under that a lot of people don't know, and of course people do know. But I was just so happy, it's just a chance meeting, in that. radio station finding your CD there,
Wow.
which I have no idea how it got there. Maybe
Hmm.
someone just took a trip to Australia or something like that. But it was fantastic to find.
Wow. That's great. Well, that's a real return, to the source. And did you like the songs that you hadn't heard? And
Yeah, I was really blown away. So I didn't realize that Umbrella was just like a compilation, that it wasn't like
yeah,
one
it
of one
was a
of the two
compilation
albums.
of our first album and Cluster, which was
Yeah,
our EP that came out after
right.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I was able to hear like from now on, straight through on Spotify, and
yeah,
then Almost Pure when that came out. So it was
yeah.
amazing. So I was very excited. So those have been heavy
Fantastic.
rotation my Spotify playlist since then.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'll look forward to collecting half a cent from Spotify for
I,
just for your listens. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how do you feel about that? I mean, it's got to be like a double-edged sword for you guys. I mean, get your music out there to be discovered, but like you said, you make no money from it.
Yeah, yeah. No, you've got. I don't know how it works. I don't know how anyone can afford to be in a band. Because we're charging quite decent, like an amount for the tickets, but still at the end of once you, um, because we've got to fly around, and Australia's got such
Mm.
big distances and stuff that
Right.
yeah, it's by the time you fly and accommodate everyone and then hire equipment and stuff, it's it's just a zero sum game, really. But I guess we're at the stage of our lives where not so much me, but Phil and Craig are sort of semi-retired, I guess, or in that kind of
Right.
twilight zone. Yeah, where you can they've got, because we have a generous superannuation scheme in Australia. So when people get to about 60, 65, they can 62, 63, I don't know, around there they
Mm.
start to taper off work,
Okay.
and if they've done all right,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
similar to here, but just with everything going on, in the government here, people are going to tend to work a little bit longer now.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's a
Yeah.
very uncertain what's going on here in the
Yeah.
world.
But you mentioned your son before, and I saw a video on Facebook. How cool was it for having him to come perform with you on stage?
Oh, my son, yes.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. I've been a big fan of theirs since he started playing, and at first it was just like cute, and then at some stage after, I guess after they played 20 shows or something, I was going, wow, these guys are really good, and I mixed their last, I've been helping them recording and stuff,
Okay.
so I mixed their last single, which is called Dopamine Hit. So I helped them with that, and so I'm a bit involved, and it was great because watching them um, made me really relaxed for some reason. So then when I just jumped up on stage, it was a really easy experience because he's got this weird thing where he has no nerves.
That's great.
So he has no nerves, and at some stage at the end of, I was getting quite bad sort of stage panic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of pressure, and it was kind of like we were trying to win over audiences. You know what I mean? Like we were playing with
Yeah.
bigger bands, touring around with, uh, you know, um, Orange Juice or EMF or Pop Will Eat Itself or big English bands and stuff
Okay.
like that, and trying to sort of impress their
Yeah.
audience. You know what I mean? And that there was I'm not now I'm not trying to impress anybody at all. I'm just trying to play the song, and I
Yeah.
don't really care. Like I sort of, all that kind of pressure to go somewhere. There's nowhere to go besides the gig.
Yeah.
That moment, that lovely moment that you can have with an audience, and that's all there is now, and that's kind of really liberating. So I guess for us, because you get back to your question, not getting paid from Spotify doesn't really matter because we're just doing it for fun, just for
Right.
the fans. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess for young bands, I'm not sure how how they'd ever, it's
Yeah.
much more miraculous if anyone can make money out of it. So I mean, some people seem to,
Yeah.
but I think that though that's a very much more select than it was. I think it's like the 1% of the 1%.
Right.
Making money out of music now. But
Yeah.
even people like Blondie um, are touring around because they're not getting the checks that they used to. It's all that sort of publishing money that musicians used to get, that used to be
Yeah.
their retirement, is now like diminished quite substantially because radio stations aren't don't have the advertising revenue that they used to have, and so and people are fracturing off into different little streams, and yeah, and even like Netflix, if they it's much cheaper to use other people's music in your TV show now. Like it used to be, that you used to have to you could command serious money
Right.
if you had a big song that was going to be used in a TV show, but that's not the case anymore. It's a lot smaller, the sums that they're talking about. But all this stuff, talking about money and stuff, it's kind of it's a moot point. It's kind of like it's kind of better just to be pure about it and just make music for making music's
Yeah.
sake, and not worrying too much about it. And it's great. We've got. I'm sitting here in this room with it's like all full of t-shirts and stuff for the tour.
Yeah.
Um, seeing people come and buy a t-shirt and just like smile, like from somehow we remind them of a good time in their life, and that's as much as pure as it gets, I guess.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, you got into doing this, I'm sure, for the love of music, not just to make money. And
No,
that
no,
hasn't
for sure.
changed.
I
Yeah.
was, yeah, yeah. Well, I guess in the 80s, it seemed a lot more possible that you could
Yeah.
have a hit single, you know what I mean? And you'd be uh, well on the way to, um, the people like people who had a like even the B side of the famous story of Fairy on the Mersey, which was the B side to Frankie Goes to Hollywood, and
Okay.
the guy was working in a bike shop, you know what I mean? And the postman turned up and said,
Yes.
"Oh, I've got a letter for you," and he went, "Oh, this is going to be $1 or something," and he didn't realize that it was the song "Ferry Across the Mersey" was on the B side of the biggest selling single in
Right.
history, and
Yeah.
yeah, and basically he could that would have set him up for life, that one song, but
Yeah.
those days are gone, I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And for people who
but
don't know your brother, Stephen, it was lead singer of the Church, which is
yes,
a popular band. They're actually coming to perform here in the States, I think, in the summer.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, doing
I
the
believe.
singles too. Yeah.
Yeah, which is fantastic. How much of an influence has he had on you, and vice versa?
Um, well, in his book, he calls me his original fan because I was his younger brother, and
Yeah.
for years I was the only person who'd listened to his music. You know what I
Right.
mean? And I can remember taking it to my science teacher, who was a bit of a long-haired kind of pot smoking kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure whether he was a pot smoker, but he looked like he could. And and him playing, "Oh, this is my brother's writing these songs." You go, "Oh yeah, they're not bad."
Yeah.
And yeah, so um, that was nice that he said that in his book. Um, I guess I was just more being a little brother, just being impressed by their big brother. And what sort of influences he had on me? Not as far as music, he's played me some great records over the time, and
Yeah,
we both have um, influenced each other. You know, like I can remember originally he really hated the Go-Betweens. You know what I mean? But I love the Go-Betweens,
right.
and so at some stage he changed his mind and um, realized that they were
Yeah,
something precious and amazing. And so it's always a two-way street, I guess, as far as playing each other records and things.
yeah,
Um, and he generously gave um, a song to us for our. I had another career making films.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, and he provided the music for the end of the film, which was good. You know, like he just said, "Oh, you can
yeah.
have it." So that was something nice that he
Oh,
did.
that's great.
But he's got his own wheelbarrow to push, so he's pretty much singly focused on doing that. I
Yeah.
also, did you see that little film that I made about him during COVID?
No, I haven't.
I'll send it to you.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Um, yeah, I should have at the time. I should have promoted it a lot more, and because it's quite sad, because
Yeah,
it really captures that how bad it was for musicians, COVID, when all the
right.
gigs closed. And I think that's another thing is that everyone's going to see bands again, but they kind of know it's this precious. They really aware of the ephemeral nature of everything. That these people
Yeah,
playing probably could die next week, and
right.
gigs could close down again. And like you have that sort of feeling that you didn't have before COVID, where it seemed like it was rock solid, and everything was going to go on forever. And so that's another good thing is people are coming out because they know, well, you know, it's ephemeral.
Yeah, it seems like everything here now. I mean, it's been the 5 year anniversary just recently when, everything really shut down over here and everything's back up now. And, everyone's touring again and,
Yeah, sorry.
music's been, oh, that's okay. It's been great. It's, good that the musicians are back, touring after doing those virtual concerts for like, a year
Yeah.
and a half on Facebook and whatnot.
Yeah, well, he did all right out of the virtual concerts, which
Right.
was which was pretty amazing. But for a while, it looked like he was going to go bankrupt. Because he
Yeah.
just he's doesn't have a lot of resources to. He's very much a vagabond troubadour, sort of going from gig to gig.
Yeah.
And I'll send you the film afterwards.
Oh yeah,
In
definitely. Thank you.
only like five, like it's only a little, short thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
How did you get into like making films? I mean, like, was Man from was it Cox River? Was that the one that?
Africa River, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Well, it was mostly through my son, Marlon is what used to be called Asperger's or autistic,
Right.
and so originally we made a little film about these bunch of autistic boys that my wife um, was doing a workshop with.
Okay.
6 weeks, I think they came, 4 weeks, I don't know. And so we filmed the boys over 4 weeks, and it was not a topic that people knew much about, so and that ended up being picked up by an educational sort of distributor that got sort of um, into all the school libraries, so
Okay.
teachers could watch it, because it was kind of like a lived experience of
Yeah.
this thing, Asperger's, which is now called just part of the autism spectrum. I kind of liked it better when it was called Asperger's because
Okay.
people sort of seem to know what that means, whereas when you say autistic, they don't really. They just look at you blankly like like what does that mean?
Right.
It's kind of pretty broad. socially awkward. Sometimes I say that, you know. Anyway, um, you probably know people like that.
Yeah.
A- And anyway, so that it just went from there, and then we just this guy came into where I worked, which was at TAFE, and he was autistic, and he had this ability to recall all the hits of the 80s, like actually you could say any week of the year
Yeah.
in the 80s, and he could tell you the top 20 songs
Oh wow.
in order. Yeah, in
Yeah.
and I rang up. There's a show here that used to be on TV every Wednesday night, I think, called Rock Whiz, which was like a rock and roll trivia show. It has live music,
Right.
really good show. Uh, and I just contacted them and said, I've got this guy, could be good to have on the show. And they went, okay, well, you know, but it's not you know, we're not just going to let him on. He has to earn his stripes, you
Yeah.
know. And so we sort of filmed it all, and it ended up getting shown on TV and was like the most popular Tuesday night show that this little there's a broadcaster called SBS, which is like the special languages broadcaster. I guess it's a bit like PBS or something
Okay.
like that.
Right.
It was their biggest Tuesday night at the time that they'd ever had with this show that we made.
Wow.
Um, then we just went on to make a feature documentary, which is a Herculean task,
Sure.
which you know, because I basically did everything myself. You know, besides, I got a few good camera people, but most of the work I did over like 5 years. You know, like,
Yeah.
and that ended up winning a National Trust Heritage Award as well as some other awards, and became the number one Australian documentary of 2014.
Wow.
So that was in the cinemas. So we it was just this right time where the cinemas, you could contact the cinemas and say, I've got this film, you know, and they go, oh yeah, sure you have, mate. And they go, no, it was just on down, it was on like last night down
Right.
the road, the cinema down the road. Ring him up and ask
Hmm.
him if it's sold out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they ring up the guy down the road, and we just did that all around Australia for about a year and a half, which was a really fun time.
Oh, that's great.
So they had some program that the New South Wales government had a program to fix up the old cinemas and make sure that they were digital compliant. And there was so actually, I think Australia's got one of the best at the time. I think a lot of them, or some of them, have died off because of COVID. But
Right.
at the time, 2014, had one of the most vibrant cinema kind of ecosystems in the
Yeah.
world, you know, as far as independent kind of family owned cinemas that are often like Art Deco kind of just palaces, you know,
Yeah.
beautiful, you know, the red velvet curtains and all
Right.
the brocade
Yeah.
and incredible roofs and yeah, all that sort of stuff. So that was a really fun time traveling around and seeing all these amazing old cinemas and meeting the sort of strange people that run cinemas in a country town. Yeah.
It's great. That even that sounds like a documentary
Oh
about
yeah.
following
Yeah.
people like, who like
Yeah.
run those theaters and too and work
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We met some real characters. It was great.
Right. Yeah. Uh, that's awesome. You planning to do any more films, or is that was just kind of
Well,
into your
next
lap?
this weekend I'm going out into to film a bit of stuff for this documentary that I'm trying to finish off.
Okay.
Yeah. So um, that's about I don't know. It's not going to be very meaningful to people in America, I don't think. But it's
Right.
about this strange. Well, it probably will like bushwalking in Australia. There was in Sydney there was a mob called the Catholic Bushwalkers.
Okay.
Um, I managed to film this famous author who was a member of the Catholic Bushwalkers and record their story. And
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of like a story of where people couldn't really interact. Like the sexes weren't allowed in the 50s, weren't allowed to
Right.
interact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so these Catholics who were strict Catholics and had to get to mass at 6 o'clock on Sunday night or something, they'd arrange all their bushwalking so that they could um, walk into church at 6 o'clock
Right.
and have the mass, the last mass, Sunday mass or whatever. And it was a way for men and women to meet. And anyways, I've just got to film a few more shots to
Yeah.
kind of a few more
Right.
bits and pieces to make it work. But it's quite good. Yeah, I guess it'll see the light of day hopefully some stage.
All right. Good luck. I hope it all works out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna ask you about a couple of your songs that I really
Yeah,
like.
please do. Yeah, please.
Yeah.
The amazing thing is, and I'll tell you this, Noel,
Yeah.
is that I was looking through all these articles, that I've got
Yeah.
here, like a whole folder full of articles, and
Yeah.
hardly ever ask me about the lyrics,
Okay.
or the songs,
Yeah.
or the music. It was always about like boring stuff, like how
Mhm.
are you going to get a major deal? The same story over and over again. It
Right.
was really, I
Yeah.
don't know what happened anyway, but I would love to talk about songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first song I heard that actually made me a fan was A Furious Mess.
Oh dear, what have you done? You left me strewn all over the floor. Oh dear, your kind of fun left me dying for some more. Take me on a mad quest into the fray. Grant me this one request. Don't ever stray away. Oh, what a messy girl. Oh, what a messy girl. Oh dear, what have you done? You scattered me without a care. Oh dear, life's all a run, and everything is everywhere. Take me on a mad quest into the fray. Grant me this one request. Don't ever stray
fell in love with the band right off of that song. What's the background behind that one?
I had a girlfriend called Kim Sandeman. If you're talking about lyrically, she was very. She went to art school and was like would just slap paint on things, and famously she cut the collars off Stephen's shirts in at some stage and
Right.
got in trouble. But she also did all the covers for like she did our covers and she did
Okay.
church. You know the seance cover with the
Oh yeah, yeah.
the weird girl with the holding the metal
Right.
flower. Yeah, she did that
Oh,
and
nice.
Persia and Remote Luxury and anyway. So she was messy in the fact that she liked putting paint and ink and stuff over everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that was the lyrical kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I sort of regret in a way I should have called it a beautiful mess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I reckon I probably shot myself in the foot there calling it a furious mess because like the radio programmers were kind of like, "Ooh, I'm not sure about this." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, a beautiful mess is easier to understand. Is nicer or something. But
Yeah.
anyway, there you go. You live and learn, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Did
If
did
I
she
release that song again, I'll change that title.
yeah,
But um,
update it? Yeah.
you know, I just didn't want. You know, people saying you should call it Messy Girl. You should call it Messy Girl. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But I thought, oh no, I don't. You know, that's a bit too obvious. You know,
Right.
so
Yeah.
I went the wrong, just too far in the opposite direction.
Yeah. Did
But
she I was gonna say, did she realize the song was written about her?
well, she came to the Brisbane show,
Okay.
and you know, I said, you know, that song's about you, and she went, yeah, sure, of course, you know, because like she really was like she
Right.
just, you know, she get photographs and
Yeah.
put ink all over them,
Yeah.
and like she didn't really care if it was on your um, Edwardian kitchen table as well.
Right.
But
Yeah.
famously, we had jobs in. Oh, it's not that famous, but it's a good story. We had jobs working for this balloon company,
Okay.
like hot air balloon, yeah, like not like that taking people up
Right. The
and
big ones. Yeah.
yeah, balloons, and they sort of changed the rules because you had to get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning because that's when the still air is.
Yeah.
And they wanted us to come back to the office and mail out stuff. And she started colouring in their photos on the mail out to
Yeah.
that they were trying to get business with. I was going, please, don't do that, Kim. You're going to get us in lots of trouble, you know. And she went, no, no one will know. It's just fun, you know. And of course, someone got the flyer and rang them
Right.
up. They sacked the whole lot of us, you know
Oh
what I
wow.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's funny.
So it's just as well I wrote the song about her because she cost me my career in the hot air industry,
Yeah. Right.
hot
You,
air ballooning industry,
right.
that is.
Exactly. I guess if you're up there, there's only one way you can go, crashing down, right?
Yeah, well, anyway, that was so that was it was about her, and she's happy to be that song's
Yeah.
about her. Yeah,
Right.
Mm.
That's good. Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah,
Other one's Thrive.
yeah,
I know
great.
that. Yeah, I know that wasn't on that album, but yeah, that's a fantastic one as well.
Digging in, waiting for the bank's gonna wipe out sleep real clean. Been crossing myself, looking at the sky and all the stuff that's in between. Been playing with them carcinogens, being kissed by acid rain. Take a deep breath, there's almost nothing left. Said my tune's been changed. We're gonna thrive. We're gonna get up and thrive. We're gonna thrive. dogma for a walk. Been waiting for the seas to rise, touching holes up in the sky. Take a long hard look unless I'm mistook. My whole life just went flashing by. We're gonna get up and thrive. We're gonna thrive. We're gonna get up and thrive.
The sword is the shield. The sword is in process of being drawn. The shield is already in place.
Nobody's out here joking. Nobody's out here joking.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that was lyrically, sort of like got a Greek chorus. You know what I mean? Whereas the chorus is different to the verse, different
Yeah.
persons, or different vibe, and it's just like someone's got, and this is very ahead of its time. Someone's got immense eco anxiety, and then in the chorus they're kind of like going, "No, it's all right. We're gonna beat this," that which was pretty ahead of its time in 1991,
Mm.
I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
When
it's got, it feels like a big,
yeah,
like it should be on an advert or something.
right. Yeah.
It,
I'm not
it,
gonna
it's
ask
very
you like how old you are when you wrote your first song, but like when did you feel like you were a really good songwriter?
well, I don't. I still, I
Right.
still don't feel like I'm a really good songwriter, and it's a miracle every time I write a song.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just some kind of, you just sort of go into this place and pull something out of
Yeah.
and it's not just me, but David Lynch, he said that, ideas, if you get an
Yeah.
idea, get
Yeah.
onto it, because someone else, if
Yeah.
you don't use it, someone
Someone
else will
else
get.
will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels a bit like that. That's why I was so despondent that we'd lost an album's worth of songs, because
Right.
some of them are really good, and
Yeah.
we haven't found all of them. There's a
Okay.
few really good songs that I can remember the chorus for, but I can't remember the verse, and I can't quite remember the chords. So I'm really hoping that
Mm.
someone jumps out and goes, "Oh, I've got a live recording of you, from
Right.
1991," and then we can reconstruct like archaeologists.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the band after what Almost Pure, the band broke up, right? Is that what
that's
happened?
correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What was the reason why?
Um, it was well, we had a big falling out with the record company, so we spent
Yeah.
years going, let's get a major record label kind of, but on our
Yeah.
terms. And we finally did. And they decided to put out Umbrella again.
Okay.
We'd already recorded Almost Pure. So we were like, no, please don't do that. Just let's
Yeah.
put out our new album, you know what I mean? Because
Right.
and they went, oh no, no, but that when that came out, that it was promoted. It wasn't promoted by a big record company. A big record company's going to make it huge, and all
Yeah.
this, a lot of hubris on their part. And so it took like about a year or more before the album came out. And in that time, we supported all these people. One of them was Delamitri.
Oh
You
yeah.
remember that?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was like a really grueling tour around Australia. I think we did 26 dates in 28 days or something like
Okay.
that. It was like playing almost every night
Yeah.
to people who didn't really care. And that, you know what I mean? It was really different to what we were used to playing to people who liked us, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
And and then the album came out, and the new album, Almost Pure. And the first interview I had, this uh, journalist who was like, her first
Hmm.
interview
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
of high school or something, said, "Why did your album take a year and a half to come out?" And am I allowed to swear on this, or
By all means. Yep.
I? And I said, "I don't know. Ask the fucking bozos who run the record company." That's
Yeah.
what I said. And she wrote that verbatim in the article.
Right.
And it was really like an episode of a British sitcom. We were upstairs in the record company doing interviews. They had
Yeah.
like a room, and we could see down into the managing director's room. And as soon as I got the thing, I went, oh wow, I wonder what, I went over and we looked down and we saw someone put the article on his desk, and him sort of go, whoa, like this, and have a complete nervous like
Yeah.
attack or whatever, like he was shouting, and steam was coming out of his ears,
Right.
in the Acme cartoons,
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
the Warner Brothers cartoons. Yeah, he was going red, and yeah, basically they kicked us and the Bag of Eight Guitars and Steve Kilbey and
Yeah.
Corin Jansen. They kicked us all off the label, kind of
Oh,
like,
wow.
I don't know, a few weeks later.
Wow.
Yeah, so the Almost Pure came out, and then they dropped us almost
Yeah.
immediately. Like, so it was all because of that.
That
All
one
because of
outburst.
me being that one. Well, it was. I didn't mean
No,
anything.
of course
I
not.
I
Yeah.
didn't know. I'd do everything in my power to say, don't do that. It's a really bad idea. You're going to make
Yeah.
us look really bad, because people smell a rat, if old stuff's rehashed and
Yeah. Of
remarketed.
course.
And it was very it made me very despondent to have to talk to radio DJs, and they go, so you put out old stuff, and
Yeah.
I go, yeah, and they go, why? And I'd say, I don't know, the record company thought it was a good idea, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and this is from a band that had been proudly independent for many years,
Yeah.
like we've been like we DIY, we DIY'd everything, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden we were like completely under the
Mm.
thumb of this giant mega corporation that was not listening to what was obviously a ill considered maneuver,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever regret signing with them?
Yeah, well, obviously, yeah, it would have been it was just by the end of that experience,
Yeah.
and I was just, over being part of the, music industry. And so that's when I went off and started doing engineering for other bands and stuff
Okay.
like that. So that's what I started doing there. And I was also doing little bits of music for advertising and films.
Okay.
Yeah, so that I sort of went into that rather than trying to play gigs and
Yeah.
organising and all that. But you know, it's good coming back and doing it because there's some good gigs and there's some good people.
Right.
It's, you know, and I understand how to market things with Facebook, and so that, you know, we're sort of getting a decent crowd. You know, like the nightmare would be to come back after 33 years and there'd be one person with a broom. You know,
Yeah, clean. Right. Exactly. They're there because they're being paid.
once happened to us.
Yeah.
We once drove to Adelaide, which would be from Sydney, would be like from driving from, you're in LA, are you? Or
No, I'm Connecticut, so East Coast.
you're in Connecticut. So it would be like driving from Connecticut to Florida.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a trip.
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And we played this show, and there was no one there, like one person or something.
Right.
And we didn't realize that someone had messed up the street posters. And as we drove out of town on Monday morning, someone was putting up our street posters for the
Yeah.
for the show that had already been played. Yeah, yeah. And it was like,
Oh,
now we know. Yeah.
yeah.
So you know, that was sort of what I was thinking. That could be like coming back to it, you know. And there's
Yeah.
just yeah.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It's been good. People have been very, very enthusiastic, and it's been
Yeah.
fun to play. So yeah.
That's awesome. Now, when your son was out there, and you know I think he was doing She Spits Out Stars with you.
Yeah.
Has he always been a fan of your music?
She burns fingers and she rips out hearts. She screams through the sky and hides in the clouds. Well, she wrote my name around the underground, around the underground. She eats earth and she spits out stars. Well, she broke my home when she wrecked my car. She's got plasticine hair that drips in her eyes. She's got gasoline breath and teeth like knives. She's got teeth like knives. She's been herself now, almost all her life, and she gave herself to me. She's been herself now, almost all her life, and she showered you with love. She showered you with love. She eats earth and she spits out stars. Well, She's got assassin, she never gives much to fall. She flies off the rails and gives you a stare. Well, she's losing her marbles, but she don't know where. But she don't know where.
Not really. No, it's more my other son Marlon.
Okay.
He was because he's quite friendly with the Brian Jonestown massacre. Sorry, hang on. Ricky from Brian Jonestown
Okay.
massacre. They become friends, and so he was more of a fan than my other son Logan.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think he's become more of a fan now. He's you know, yeah, you should check out. They've only got 3 songs, but they I'll be interested to see what you think.
Yeah, definitely. I'll check it out. 'Cause-
But yeah, but getting up on stage, because in Melbourne, Marlon, my
yeah.
older son, got up on stage as well and
Okay.
sung on She Spits Out Stars.
Yeah.
So they both had a go. And my daughter's going, you know, it's only fair if I get up on stage. And I'm going, oh, no.
Yeah. Where did I
It's not,
start here?
you know, I'm not sure if that's the way it works. But
Yeah,
anyway,
right.
yeah, but they're playing with us in Sydney again
Oh, that's
at
good.
our last show at the
Yeah.
factory. And it'll be a lot of fun. He'll probably jump up again and do
Right.
something. Yeah.
That's awesome. Was there ever like a time not or an opportunity for you guys to play anywhere besides Australia?
We've never been asked.
Okay.
So, or, you know, no one's ever,
Yeah.
I guess, you know, it's probably, it might happen, you know,
Yeah.
like, we'll see what happens. There's good friends of ours, the Underground Lovers, you know, have you heard of them?
No.
Oh, well, you'd like them for sure.
Okay.
They're great. Yeah, yeah. I'll send you a link to my
Oh, definitely.
favorite album. Yeah, and I'll send you Die Pretty as well. But they've just done a national tour with OMD, Orchestra
Oh, yeah.
Maneuvers, you know,
I
and
had Andy, the lead singer, on last year.
oh wow,
Yeah.
yeah, well, they really enjoyed that, and you know, those sort of seeing that they've been doing those sort of,
Yeah.
you know, next tier thing, um, it makes us hopeful that, you know, we can do this
Yeah.
every 6 months or something, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
look, if you know anyone who wants to, you know, wants to help us get over to America,
yeah, I
um,
would.
to
Yeah.
Europe, or even to New Zealand. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I would. Yeah. I'll definitely try because one of my like dreams has always been to go to Australia.
oh,
So
okay,
hopefully that'll happen sometime.
you should come. Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll
I,
fit
I
in.
I had an opportunity with one of my jobs and I left about 6 months before it happened. So I was kicking myself, but
Ah,
had I known, you know. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember where you were the first time you heard one of your songs on the radio?
I was in the car, pretty sure, driving along. I can't remember exactly where we were. Somewhere in Sydney, driving along, and
Right.
radio. Yeah, because we used to get flogged on, which is a good thing,
Okay.
on triple J and Double J, which were the youth radio networks. You know, so they loved our music, and um, it yeah, definitely. The, originally what happened was our first single was actually a demo.
Okay.
We recorded it. We just thought it was a demo, you
Mm.
know,
Was that a drop in the ocean?
up in the ocean, yeah.
Mm.
And I gave it to a DJ or a disc jockey on Double J called
Okay.
George, and he started playing the demo on the radio, which
Yeah.
was, I don't know, it must have been on cassette or something. And he just said, every time I play this, people are ringing up going, where do I want to get this song. I love this song.
Right.
And so we put it out as a single, and then we like had boxes of the records that we'd take
Yeah.
around to record shops and say, can you put 10 of these in the
Right.
shop? And then we go back, you know, 2 weeks later, and they go, oh yeah, we'll have another 10. That's how it started.
Oh wow.
Us
Okay.
literally going around to like 5 record shops and just giving them
Yeah.
the records that we got pressed up. Yeah,
Oh wow, that's great.
it's very DIY.
In days gone by, you never cried for ever running harder. When you caught your prize, you realize you need 3 hands of garter. Your sail fills with social ills that quantify your yearning for splendid tales and parables on how to stop it turning. When suddenly you're a drop in the ocean. While good friends dwell in private hell, you exercise your grandeur with manic schemes and godly dreams that only make our plans blur. You look for truth and eternal youth and a plant that cures cancer. Before we ask where lies our task, we know you have the answer. When suddenly you're a drop in the ocean. And every month the paper warns events are helter-skelter. Though the chance of loss has long since passed, you better build your shelter. Drenched with concern, you take your turn and lashing down the window. And when quite blind, you stay behind to guard the coast by feel. When suddenly you're a drop in the ocean. A drop, ocean.
I feel like people now, it's come full circle with artists, and you know, most of them are on their own labels now. They're doing all the legwork themselves, and you know,
Yeah.
don't have a
Yeah.
record
Oh,
company
sure.
behind them anymore.
No. Well, that's you have to be you have to do all that legwork yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting this tour up and running, I've had to do the Facebook and the Instagram
Yeah.
and get our little Shopify going and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
Which I quite enjoy the challenge of working out how all these silly things work, but
Yeah.
uh, other people probably wouldn't, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Russell, I really appreciate your time. This was fantastic. Best of luck with your last show. I hope somehow in the future I'm able to see you perform live. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. Well, who knows? I never thought we'd play again,
Right.
and I never thought it'd be so easy. Like it just seems so natural. It really was like jumping on a bicycle again, you
Right.
know. It just was easy um, and people are really digging it. So I really hope you get a chance too. No, I'm sure you're not the only one in America
Oh,
who'd
I'm,
like to,
I'm I'm sure there are others. I mean, I'm sure there are,
at least one or
others.
two.
Yeah. I'm sure more than you know.
Well,
Totally.
I'll tell you one, because me and Stephen used to live together
Okay.
in this house in Mansfield Street in Roselle. And one time the police banged on the door and came in, these two detectives. And like just around the corner of the uh, living room was this big marijuana plant that we were
Okay.
growing, which was in 1984 or something. It was completely illegal, you know.
Right.
And we were talking and like nervously, like trying to make sure they didn't come any further into the house, you know. And
Yeah.
they saw Stephen's gold record on the um,
The wall.
on the wall, yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh yeah, I'm in the church, that band." And they looked at us and went, "We're in the police." Boom, boom. And then they went, "Okay, gents. Well, if you don't know, we didn't know. We couldn't help them with what they were after, which was some inquiries about something that happened at his gig, you know, like
Right.
6 years ago or something, you know."
Yeah.
So they just went off, and they never realised that literally
It was a big
3 feet
marijuana
from where they were standing was this
big ass plant.
hot plant,
Right. But thanks again.
no
Enjoy
worries.
your day, and I'll definitely talk to you soon.
Okay, lovely, Noel. All right.
All right.
Thanks
Take
for
care.
having me on the show. Bye.
Of course. Bye. And a special thanks to Russell for joining me today. Go check them out on Facebook. Their music's on iTunes and Spotify as well. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it. If you have a guest suggestion, you can hit me up on X, formerly Twitter, at the first Noel19, or like the page Reliving My Youth on Facebook. You can go to iTunes, check out all the past episodes we've had. While you're there, please rate and review the show. I would really appreciate it. If you don't have iTunes, not a problem. Shows on SoundCloud, Spotify, Podbean, Amazon Music, basically wherever you can find a podcast. A new episode will come out soon. Stay safe, everybody. See you then.